the women. Today, I am thrilled to be surrounded by several of our incredible Burned authors and my co-founder, Jenny Alberti. We are here to celebrate the launch of the third and final book in the Wounded Women series, Burned, Brave and Inspiring Stories from Women who have overcome their fears to speak their truth and share their wisdom. So today we are joined by our gorgeous chief editor and author Ruth Fay, Amanda Noor, in all of the Wounded Women series. We have the gorgeous Kelly Femright rejoining us after making her debut in Broken. We have the lovely Lindsay Joy, who has bookended the series, starting with Betrayed and then coming back for Burned. We have Carolyn Parker, who is making her debut with the Women Writing Intentionally Collective, but she is not a first-time author. This is what, your fourth book now, Carolyn, in total, including your solo book?
Fifth, I think.
So, and then we have the beautiful Laura Rininkowski, who has come back to join us for the final book in the Wounded Women series, having made her debut in Jenny's debut book, Quiet and Badass, through Introvert She Wrote Publishing. So, welcome, ladies. We are so excited to have each and every one of you here with us today. We are so thrilled to be finally releasing Burned out into the world. So how does it feel for you guys?
Amazing.
Feels great. This is nice. It's like, oh, we're completing the series.
Yeah.
It's a funny feeling, isn't it? Bringing to like the end of the journey, especially for those who have either started the journey or are finishing the journey, and really to be at this point that we've all been walking this path for so long now. Jenny and I actually started the Wounded Women series, the concept of the Wounded Women series, in mid-2022, and here we are now in January 2024, and so it's been a long road, a long path, with lots of twists and turns, and I know that each of you in your chapters has, unwrapped and dived deep into your own experiences and journeys. And I would love for each and every one of you. So we'll start with Ruth. We'll just go along the top. So Ruth, Amanda, then Kelly, Lindsay, Carolyn, Laura, and then Jan, to maybe share a little bit about what the journey has been like for you since making the decision to join Wounded Women, and no matter when or where you joined, but what the actual journey has been like for you.
Cool. Good question. The honest choice. For me, it has been a unexpected journey, and I was like, yeah, cool, I'll do this. This is great. This is the stuff I want to write about. This is stuff I want to talk about. It's all the things I'm exploring personally, and it's what I help everyone with in my business. And like, this will be a breeze. And it has probably been, well, not probably, it has been one of the most difficult years, I'm going to say. It's a bit over a year, but roughly a year. Ironically, because so much of it is about speaking our truth and tackling those systems and everything that is in place within our society that does make life difficult as a woman. And when, I think most of you know, but when I wrote in Betrayed, that I loved it. Like, it was amazing. It flowed. It was great. And it all came out so well. But it threw me actually sending that story out into the world, and to the point that I think I've told you all, the night before launch, I was vomiting my guts up, basically. Like, it was such a visceral experience to actually physically speak my truth and send it out there. And the next two books have it hasn't been as bad, haven't vomited, but it has been a challenge. The great thing about that is in my work as a writing coach and as an editor, it's brought up the writing blocks that I help people overcome. I have experienced time and time again throughout this series. So there's been a huge amount of learning for me personally, professionally. Imposter syndrome's raised its head, fears have come up, like all of these things have happened. So, but there's been a huge amount of growth and understanding of myself, but also what my clients go through. So, yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I'm in such a privileged space in that I am able to read all the stories early as an editor, and I'm able to work with you all on finding the right words or the right way to tell your story, and what I call sprinkling magic on it, which is it's a co-creative magic. It's not just me editing, it's editing with you. It's you guys coming in and going, I want to say this differently, but I'm not sure how, or I can't tell the story, help me with it. And that is such an honor and a blessing to be part of that. So I would like to thank all of you for your trust as well. And I guess more than anything, I hope that the people that all three books reach and resonate with, whoever's story, resonates most or means something to them or they see themselves in. I really do hope that we are making change, and by speaking up, we are. So rock on.
Love it. Amanda, what's your journey with Women Who Like?
So I was not like going to be in Burned, and then I was like, but then like to be in all three, like, I don't know, it was like a weird thing. So we got done with Broken, and I had put a poem in there that had just was amazing. I was sitting next to my husband, and I have a real life story that I literally saw someone, like, I would say the attempt of burning, because she's risen above beyond everything that ever happened. So I let the muse strike. I wrote a poem. It was awesome. I just enjoyed the process, and I sent it to Tracy, and then just kind of like nothing. And then she comes back with, no, we want you in the book. And so we figured out how to make it work. And so it's less words this go around. And the interesting thing was when I made the decision to be in Burned, I'm sitting down at a conference, which it was a farm one. And I love farming, but it's a lot of very right-wing religious people, and I am not anymore, I guess I should say. And I sit with fear in the pit of my stomach all the time, because I don't feel like I can fully show up as myself in all my spaces. So that's where the narrative came for writing, and it's just so interesting, because even like we turned it in, it's been just sort of chill for a little bit, and I still just have those moments and those times, just certain people, certain places. It's just like, just what it would feel like to just be all of me all the time, even while I'm still trying to figure out who all of me is.
It's just one day at a time, Amanda, and the journey that you've been on has been amazing to witness. We've been on this journey for a long time now together, even before Wounded Women, when we were doing Lunar Wisdom together, and the ways in which you have continued to grow, and your courage and your resilience have been beautiful to witness.
Thank you.
Kelly, tell us about your journey.
Yes, so for me, I really feel like this was the reason why I signed up for any of these books. So I wrote in Broken as well. The stories interweave with each other a little bit, but this one was really the one that I had to get out there, because it is interweaved so much with my personal healing journey as I'm going through it. So I'm just reflecting back on a year ago where I was, and I would never have been putting myself on a Facebook Live talking about these topics 1 year ago. So that is just amazing in itself that I got to this point. And I'm just celebrating that so much today, in choosing to do this and choosing to have this experience with all of you. And I also just have to say, I read the whole book last night, and I connected with each and every one of your stories in different ways. I was crying. I was emotional. I was just like seeing myself, seeing family members, seeing my daughter in some of your stories. And this is just such a powerful compilation. So I just wanted to add that and tell all of you how powerful all of your stories are too.
Oh, I love that so much, Kelly, and it's beautiful to have you have finished reading it so quickly, because I know we are all so busy in the launch process that quite often we don't actually get to read the book.
Yeah, honestly, I started reading it and I just couldn't put it down. And I just had a cup of tea and I just was laying in bed and I read the whole thing from cover to cover.
Wow. That's cool.
Lovely. Lindsay, tell us about your journey.
Well, my journey has been from the start to finish. I guess it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, not so much in a bad way, but just that I never knew how many books I was going to participate in. At first, when I saw Betrayed, I knew I had to jump in. I definitely had the story of my sister wound to share, and I thought, no, I can't do mother wound, and then I almost did, and then it wasn't right, and then I was like, Burned would be nice, but what would I say? And it was just kind of funny because over the course of the year, everything came together perfectly, and the closer we got to Burned, I had on my own personal. It wasn't that there were particular things going on in general, but I was just doing life, and I was being in the world, and I was interacting with family, and I was, continuing on my own personal journey of growth and healing and existing. And I think for a lot of people, 2023 was really an intense year. And for me, absolutely. So just in the process of trying to not just raise out of the intensity, but just trying to be the best me that I could. We all try to do the best we can every day. And that just sort of resulted in Burned coming to life for me. And it feels so delicious and satisfying to be sitting here with you ladies again, and to be showing this new side of myself to the world. It's really exciting. And I couldn't be more honored to be surrounded by such an incredible group of women. Guys, if Tracy and Jenny, you know how to cultivate some powerful people. Yeah, you do. You do.
Thank you. Well, we love to be intentional about the people that we call into our circle, and the very fact that each and every one of you is here should say an awful lot about how we feel about you. Carolyn, I know this is the beginning of your journey with the Women Writing Intentionally Collective, but I would love to hear how you have found, because you're very a fast action taker. You were like, yes, I want in, here's my chapter, let's go. And yeah, so tell us about your journey.
Well, firstly, it's lovely to be here. And can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I haven't been on this before.
So yes, it's lovely to actually see your faces. And I guess because I jumped in last, I didn't have time to overthink it. It was very much a case. I remember asking a question in the chat group saying, when does my chapter need to be in? And the answer was, as soon as possible. So I thought, whoa, okay then. So I think I signed up on something like Thursday, wrote it on the Saturday, Sunday, gave it a quick tweak and sent it off. So because I didn't have time to keep going over and over and over it, I think that was actually really helpful. It really got the mind focused. And I know Tracy from quite a while back. Tracy used to be my coach at one point, and we've done a lot of my healing journey. I've done a lot of my healing journey with her before I was doing any writing to start with. And it's been puzzle pieces for me. So each time I've written a chapter in a book, or when I wrote my first memoir, it's just helping things piece together more. So I thought I was going to write about the narcissistic abuse that I went through, which I do mention a little bit at the end of the chapter. And then it just came to mind that, hang on, we're going to go right back to the beginning here and look at what was going on for you when you were a child and how things were like in the 60s. So I find I start to write and it's like having a download. So it just kind of comes and I just sort of get it out there. And I've learned just to trust that now. When that download comes, I just write and trust that I'm writing the right thing, even though it was different to what I'd first imagined. The only thing about jumping in late and not really knowing the rest of you and not seeing you till today is it was difficult to feel part of the group. Just because I hadn't had time to sort of walk alongside you. But so it's nice to see you all tonight. And the last few days we've been jumping in each other's Facebook posts and things and seeing you. And I'm just really, really pleased to be here.
Well, we are thrilled to have you here. And I can say, having walked alongside you for some time now, that it has been wonderful to witness your story and to see you actually go back to the beginning and the take that you took, or, you know, the direction you took in your chapter for Burned was beautiful. But I love what you were saying about sometimes you've just got to listen to those downloads when they come, even if you think what you're going to write about is one thing and it turns out to be something else. I know that many of the other women here on the call today can empathize and resonate with that, because I know that very much happens to me as well. Sometimes you go in thinking that this is what you're going to write about, but then when you start writing, something completely different ends up on the page.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. Laura, welcome back. Welcome to the Wounded Women series.
Thank you.
Talk about you. Like Carolyn, you kind of jumped in right towards the end there. So your time with us here in this container has been short, but you obviously, there are two of your quite badass co-authors plus Jenny here in the Wounded Women series as well. So you already had some links in the group. So what has your journey been like, not just in socially, but also in terms of writing and sharing your story?
Yeah, it was an interesting way how I ended up being in Burned, because I hadn't planned it at all. I hadn't planned it at all. I mean, I loved the experience of being in Quiet and Badass, and it literally like changed my life. I feel like it opened up a portal in my life, and so many amazing things, came in, awards, magazine covers, like things that I would have never like expected or dreamt about. All these opportunities were coming in. And then the way that I ended up, being in Burned was because I got my power back, or, with somebody that tried to like, shut me up or keep me quiet. Right. So I was like, so there was something, and I also broke a vow. I broke a vow of like silence and poverty from like a past life. So there was something in me that I just felt like I needed to tell my story. I needed to share my story to help somebody else, right? So that's how I ended up being in Burned. And I remember that I had very little time to write the chapter, and I was so busy. Like when I signed up, I was like oh my God, I'm crazy. Like, how can I add one more thing to my, things to do list? And I was like, how am I going to find the time to write this chapter? But I just I sat down one day and I was like, today's the day. I'm going to write my chapter. And it just flowed. I didn't know what I was going to write about, but I trusted that, whatever I was meant to write would flow. And that's how it happened. Everything just flowed. Yeah.
So Jen, did you want to jump in and talk about your journey, or should we skip straight to Caitlin and then you and I can wrap up?
Yeah, let's have Caitlin. Let's have Caitlin go, and you and I can wrap it up.
Yeah. So, Caitlin, this is the beginning of your Wounded Women journey. You had perhaps a little bit more time than Laura and Carolyn to prepare. But tell us, how have you found your journey, writing your chapter, sharing your story? What's it been like for you?
Okay. So I always knew that I was going to be an author. It was going to happen. And the opportunity just popped up in front of me. And it met my criteria. And I was just like, this is it. And I signed up. I sent everything out. I was accepted before I even told my husband. I was just like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm writing a chapter. And I really love that I was able to be an observer of my own writing process, because it was the first time I was doing it. I didn't necessarily know exactly what it was going to look like. And what I found myself doing was following the prompts to get to kind of familiarize myself again with different pieces of my story, writing a kind of first rough draft, and then realizing what I wanted to focus on, what I wanted to cut out, because my chapter is quite short. And it was so fun to go through and refine, to leave in the really heavy impact stuff. So it's a short chapter, but it is boom, 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 all the way through. And I even found myself in the process realizing where I could be judging myself for having to start over, or it didn't go the way that I wanted it to, and now I'm over here and going this way. And with all of the work that I have done, from what I reveal in my story, but also from other aspects of my life, I was able to sit there and be like, I could have judged myself, but this is just what the writing process looks like for me. It's not wrong. I'm not making mistakes. I'm not backtracking. This is the process, and I'm doing it great and well, and I loved every bit of it.
I love that so much. I think exactly what you said. You're not doing it wrong. The way that you're doing it is your process. That's so perfect. And I can see everybody else was loving that as well. So I can't speak entirely for Jenny. I'm going to let her speak for herself. But when we came up with the concept of the Wounded Women series, it all started with Betrayed. And what some of you guys might not realize, which you will once you read the introduction, and is that Burned was actually originally meant to be the second book in the series. And Broken was supposed to be the last one, just because that was just the order that when I was, coming up with the titles and the subtitles and everything, it was just meant to be Betrayed, burned and broken. Like it just seemed like that was a logical kind of flow for us. But after a little while, we were just like, no, I think we need to switch them around. And there were a couple of reasons why we did that. Some of them that are not particularly relevant anymore because it didn't quite, the timing didn't end up playing out like that. But Burned was always on its own timeline. It had its own journey to go on. It didn't want to be the second book in the series. It wanted to be like a capstone, I guess, and bringing everything all together. And in terms of the journey that each and every one of us has been on throughout the series, I know for my own personal journey as well, that it really couldn't have played out any other way. Like it needed to be like this. And somebody else, I think it was Lindsay, said that it's been a bit of a roller coaster, right? The journey, the path of the wounded women has been a roller coaster. And each of you has touched on that in different ways. And Jenny and I knew that a little bit, like we had a glimpse of it when we came up with the series. We were like, this is going to be a journey. There's going to be a lot that's going to come up for the women who write in these books and the ones who decide that they want to walk the entire path with us. We need to put things in place to facilitate and support that. And that was one of the reasons that we had Talisha coming in and doing the sister circles as well, so that we could do some of that release and healing work. And we will be coordinating with Talisha to do another release circle now post Burned coming out. Would be a good time. You know, Christmas year kind of made that a bit difficult with people being away and doing different bits and pieces. But we really wanted to be able to provide that support and that structure for each of you guys and for ourselves as well, because we knew that it was going to be a rocky road. We didn't quite know how rocky it was going to be or how much it was going to feel like being inside a washing machine that just stopped. Or if you barely had time to catch your breath before suddenly it started spinning again. But we rather naively in the beginning, before we even started signing authors, we were just talking about ideating the series in general, to have to walk this pathway before, or like so that we could then help lead you guys through it, because we had already been doing the work. And that was incredibly accurate for us in terms of walking the path. We just didn't realize exactly how overgrown that path was going to be, and that we would have to be out there bashing our way through it and actually creating the pathway to begin with. But I guess all that to say that this journey has been everything that we ever hoped, so much more than we ever could have imagined. And not just because of the journeys that we have been through, and obviously writing and crafting our own chapters and sharing those pieces of ourselves, but also in the calling in of each and every one of you and the relationships that we have formed with or deepened with each of you along the way. You know, there were a lot of women who put their hands up and said, oh, we'd be interested in sharing a story about breaking generational cycles, or we'd like to share stories about speaking our truth without fear. And so many of them tripped over the first hurdle, right? Like they just couldn't face actually making that step to share their stories. And so for each and every one of you guys to be here, just being here before you even wrote a word was an enormous achievement in terms of making that decision to be vulnerable and to be visible. And so then, the next hurdle was actually the writing of your chapters and articulating each of your stories, and then submitting them and going through the editing process and having somebody else, like Caitlin was touching on, like the idea of having someone else judge your work, which, we have tried. Ruth and I have talked about this more than once about, we're not here to judge your work or tell you that you're wrong or change who you are. Every single suggestion we have ever made is always with the intention of love and, like Ruth said, sprinkling magic over your chapters, not because we want to squelch your voice or we want to change your words or we want to take something away from you, but only because we want you to shine as fabulously and gloriously bright as possible. So, for each of you to get to that point and then to be here today as international best-selling authors, as published authors, however many times over it is for each of you. So Caitlin, congratulations. This is your first book and you're a first-time published author. So amazing.
Yes, it is. Freshly minted best-selling author.
Yeah. Welcome to the club. To Kelly, and who is celebrating her second time around, to Lindsay, and Laura, who's celebrating her second time, 3 celebrating her 5th time, celebrating 4, and Ruth, I forget, you're up to what, 7 now? Like that. And for Jenny and I lose count. I think it's getting close to 7 or 8 now for each of us. But it never stops being exciting. It never stops being challenging. It never stops being new. It never stops teaching us something different. So I just congratulate each and every one of you. I want to tell you how proud I am of each and every one of you, how much I adore each and every one of you for saying yes, for showing up, for being here, for sharing your stories, and for writing so freaking beautifully. Because there is so much magic in each of your stories. Like Kelly said, like each and every one of your stories is so beautiful. And so I'm going to hand over to Jen now, because I think I've talked for long enough.
That's okay. I've made my way through my popcorn by now. So, holy shit, you guys. Like, congratulations, first of all, because I have to just say the energy of this book is so incredible. Just the energy around this book. And it's because each one of you, it's because of who we have called in. And we intentionally call you guys in. Like this is, it's not just by chance, right? It's not just by chance that you're in this book. It's not just by chance that you had a story to share and the timing was right. It's not by chance, it's by design. And we intentionally found each one of you and each one of you's story and each one of you's energy makes this book what it is. And truthfully, like Tracy said, we started this series with Betrayed, and it was really just Betrayed. And then we were like, oh, well, you know, we can create something around, you know, each one of these wounds, because that's really the sister wound. And so it kind of developed. And at the time, I was really just enamored with Betrayed, because I had a story that I wanted to get out there. And I was like, Betrayed is the end all be all. Like, as long as Betrayed, you know, does really well, you know, I'm good. And like Tracy said, there's these series of events that continue to unfold that shifted Burned from the second book to the third book. And if it didn't shift, each one of you wouldn't be here right now. Each one of you wouldn't be in this book. Each one of you wouldn't be celebrating being a best-selling author today internationally if the universe did not guide us and us listen. So the energy of this book, I cannot stress enough how freaking excited I am for this book to be in the world with you ladies in it. There is a lot of backstory to this series. There's a lot of backstory to this book. And one of the things that I share in my story and that we touch upon in the introduction is the fact that I was adamant not to include the word witch in the title of this book. I was adamant. Tracy gave this, you know, Tracy's great at titles. I have to just say, like, Tracy creates the titles. So she creates the title and the subtitle, and I'm like, yeah, you're a genius, and let's roll with that. But when I stumbled on the actual subtitle of Burned, I couldn't even go out there and find the women to come, like, be interested at all. Like, I couldn't even go about looking for people, and I kind of like disconnected from it.
And let me just clarify here. This wasn't when we came up with the titles. We had the cover of the book already designed with the other subtitle on the cover of the book. And then Jenny made us change it.
Yeah, because I could not get past the word witch. I couldn't. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, Tracy, who's going to want to say that they're a witch?
Which was funny for me because I just published Lunar Wisdom. So,
like, how many really women are going to want to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'm going to be in this book that's talking about the witch wound? Okay, like, how deeply at that point was I actually in my witch wound? How deeply was I like, oh my gosh, if we don't change the subtitle, no one is going to join this book, because we need to be socially acceptable, right? Like, we need to follow what is acceptable in order for us to even find women to want to participate. And so this journey has been insane for me, for this book in particular, because not only has that happened for me, but I had this wild experience that also, by the way, if we didn't switch the order of these books, this wouldn't be my story. It had to switch because of the timeline that this experience happened to me. And then in that experience, I was literally told, this is your story for Burned. So, like, it's just incredible how all of this unfolded. It's incredible how each one of you are a part of our lives. I am insanely grateful to have Lindsay in this book and as a part of my life and our life and all of our lives, because Lindsay basically was the reason why I didn't feel as though I was going crazy. And this is just to say, ladies, that you were intentionally called in. You were intentionally called into this book. You were connected with us for a reason, and we are connected forever. Forever connected in this book. We have Carolyn and Laura and Caitlin who dropped off, but even though your time within this container before the digital launch has been very short, my goodness, ladies. Lori, well, you've been connected with me since Quiet and Badass. However, this journey here is going to be much different because we have a paperback series to launch. We get to launch an entire series. We also get to launch audiobooks. And there is such a long journey ahead for all of us in which this book is forever. All of the books that we've created is forever. The bond is forever. What we shared going through being vulnerable and sharing our wisdom with the world to heal the collective, this is forever. Each one of us contributed to healing the collective. We stepped up. This is forever. And so while at this point right now, it has been a short time getting to know everybody, we got the whole rest of our lives to continue to be connected. So for each one of you, I'm going to stop talking so we can read our excerpts. But ladies, just they're actually so far, you know, I've created several books. I've participated in several books. I've never felt the way that I feel right now. I've been a best-selling author multiple times. I've been through this process multiple times. I've never felt the way that I feel right in this moment because I feel as though that what each of us has contributed in this specific book can change so much. And I beg each one of you, literally on this call right now, to never stop promoting this book because the stories that have been written in these pages, they need to be heard. Please don't ever stop promoting this book. And with that, I pass it back to Tracy and back to my popcorn.
Can I just?
I'm actually going to hand the mic.
Was that me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got a lag happening. It's really funny that you guys talking about how the order of the book, because I never realized it wasn't in the order that it is. And I'm fairly sure when I was telling people about it, you know, over a year ago, I was saying betrayed, broken, burned. And I remember stumbling over the word and then going, and trying to get the order right. But I would say burned or whatever. It was always going to be broken in the middle for me. But I was thinking about it as you were talking, and it makes so much sense because as women, with what happens in our lives, and even if we look back, you know, at the burning times and the witches and all the stuff that was happening back then, we were betrayed. Like if you look at a witch, usually someone would dob them in, or, you know, the community would be like, and hunt them down. And then that act of being caught, being accused, being tortured, like all of that was the breaking. But when it eventually got to the point of someone, a witch, being burned at the stake or drowned or whatever it may be, but effectively being burned, which we are all continuing, that's when we really stand in our power. So to me, it makes complete sense that that's the process, because particularly from my privileged position as one of the editors of the book, I've seen you all go through that process through the writing as well. Like sometimes the writing, absolutely, there is a betrayal that occurs in some way, which is why we're writing. Then we break as writers when we're doing it. You know, there's tears, there's healing, there's vomiting, there's all these things that we're going through. There's self-doubt. There's like, what the hell are we doing? I can't do this. I'm not doing this anymore. And then it comes to that point when we stand in our power, and that, whether that burning is, you know, a destruction and a rising, whether it is a burning with belief, like whatever that may be, it seems to me to make complete sense that burned is at the end of this series.
I love that.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. So with that, for those who are following along at home, and just shout out to Cassandra, who grabbed her copy, another one of our quiet and badass alumni.
Yeah.
Love it. How about we give everybody a little bit of a sneak peek of what they can expect to find within the pages of Burned, basically. So rather than doing everyone in order, I'm more than happy for each of you to volunteer, and if you know, whoever wants to go first can dive straight in. Does anybody want to go first, or Ruth? Okay.
I will, because I will need to shoot off shortly. And also, I am reading an excerpt from Jennifer's chapter, because she unfortunately couldn't be here this evening for you guys, whatever it may be. It's morning for me. So Jennifer's chapter is titled "There's More to Life Than Just Fish." Jennifer and I spoke. She also came in late, like Laura and Carolyn. Not that it's late, it's perfect timing, but she came in towards the end of the actual process. So she also didn't kind of know anyone and was really stepping into it, but she had this burning story that she needed to tell. But like all of us, it was easy in one way in that the words came out, but it was difficult in another way. So I feel very privileged to be reading her excerpt. This is actually towards the end of her chapter. And her fish story is quite funny, but yeah. Anyway, I'll just read it. Okay, so there's more to life than just fish. I feel like one of those commercials that shares a ton of information and still says, but wait, there's more. For now, my continued story of love, loss, death, broken, betrayed, and burned will have to wait for another day, another podcast, chapter, book, or story around the fire with my sisterhood of women who, after being beaten down by life, continue to thrive beyond all expectations. I see you, dear one, and you are not alone. Together we indeed rise, even when we crawl through the glass time after time. So I will wrap up with the fish story. I stood there in line with my friends, and one of the menu choices was fish and more. I turned to my friend Nancy and said, I think I'll get that because there has to be more to life than just fish. The girl I was is the one I seek now, and I will pick up where she left off. Before the haze of grief, bad choices, and survival mode, there was a young woman who saw glimpses of possibility through the veil of heartbreak. The young woman who wanted to grab the bad backpack, head to Ireland, and see where the road would take her. The young woman who was free-spirited, untamed, and unconventional. The young woman who saw creativity and profound meaning in the most mundane of places. The woman I was before buying into society and being burned even more by ticking the boxes of school, career, marriage, house, kids, death. Let's see where this road goes. After all, there's more to this life than just fish. Thank you.
I love that. So beautiful. It's a shame Jennifer couldn't be here with us today, but such beautiful words. And Jen, if you're watching the replay or if you're following along at home, thank you. Okay, does anyone want to volunteer to go next?
Let me read. I'll read Jamila's.
I will.
We read the ones that aren't here with us, and then we can shift to ours. Yeah. So I am reading Jamila's. Also came very towards the end of the whole process, and I had known Jamila through actually her incredible Facebook group for introverts, and her and I had quite Terry. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. And Jamila and I had quite a connection on that level. So I'm honored to be able to read her chapter. So her excerpt is Defying Gravity. So in the musical Wicked, Elphaba found power through her own outsider status. Her popular song, Defying Gravity, is all about feeling scared of losing love and being rejected. And because of that fear, keeping yourself small. Years of being a social outcast have formed Elphba's low self-esteem, but later on she decides that enough is enough, and she is now willing to be wicked and embody being the outcast, if it means she can do good in the world. Do you think it's funny that her name is the Wicked Witch of the West? Witch wound, anyone? One of my most profound beliefs actually touched on this topic. It entailed that people would abandon me once they discovered my true self. Overcoming this belief was absolutely crucial for my well-being and self-acceptance. I too had come to terms with my own inner social outcast. My journey to this transformation was utterly unconventional. It wasn't through cognitive behavioral therapy, meditation, journaling, EMDR, psychotherapy, EFT tapping, or hypnotherapy. Being the scientist that I was, I had tried and tested all of those methods before, but the real big change occurred through deep energy healing, specifically by addressing a past life where I was a shaman, the healer and medicine woman of our tribe. In this past life, I was an introverted young female shaman. Interestingly, my introversion wasn't the issue here, as many in the tribe were introverts. My behavior, however, was deemed different, and I didn't quite fit in because I used to communicate with animal spirits and plants and dance under the moonlight beside a crackling bonfire. Quite simply, I was highly misunderstood. My past self apparently had a profound connection with nature, a connection I had lost in my current life. So then why would I want to connect with life or within myself when in the past life I had been shunned and ostracized by my tribe? My soul had learned that it wasn't safe to be connected, which led to a pattern of disconnection in subsequent lives. Writing this, I feel a sense of sadness for what I missed during all of those lives. And yet, there's also gratitude for having uncovered and released this core belief into the realm of unconditional love, healing the pain and resentment of my past self, and shedding all judgments. Now I am free to be myself unapologetically. Beautiful, Jamila.
So gorgeous.
I'm sad that you're not here. I know that you're on the other side of the entire planet, but absolutely beautifully written chapter. And I'm so glad that you did join us. And I'm glad that, you know, we were talking about Quiet and Badass actually, and the timing for that just didn't work. But one of Tracy's all-time best quotes that I'm going to quote is that what is for you shall not pass you. And Jamila's opportunity to write with us, while it wasn't at that time, the opportunity was still here and it didn't pass her. So Jamila, I'm honored to have read your chapter and so glad that you're with us. So whoever is next, who wants to go next?
I think Amanda had her hand up.
Yeah, let's do it, Amanda.
So mine is short and it's a poem. So no spoilers, but I figured I would spill the tea.
Spill it, girl.
Because a lot of times you read poetry and you're like, well, where did that come from, right? And speaking is scary for me. Speaking about this is scary for me. So the poem, though, for me, it was a catalyst. So in the church that I was raised in, they have a practice where they kick people out if they don't align with whatever the top leadership wants, says, or does, right? So in the 1970s, they were publicly kicking out the feminists. In the early 90s, they were kicking out the historians that were speaking the truth and telling the truth of the organization and the history. In the mid 2000s, they were kicking out more people because the internet was now there. And so people were finding this truth again. And they were kicking out the podcasters. And in the 2020s, they started throwing out and kicking out the therapists who were helping people deal with the damage and the pain, which I wrote about in Betrayed. And it was the summer of July of 21. And the one therapist, I had listened to podcasts, I followed her and everything like that. And, you know, she went on social medias and shared the letter that she was given by her local leaders about going on trial to keep her membership in our church. And what was said against her was not true. She was accused of saying things she didn't say, but she was advocating for best practices because our church does have a therapy services arm, right? But it's not really like ethical. You have to sign a paper if you get help saying that they can talk to your bishop about you, like just different things. So she was calling out unethical practices and advocating, especially for like the LGBTQ youth who were killing themselves because of teachings. And I even wrote a letter, and a lot of therapists wrote letters. Anyways, they kicked her out anyway. And that was the moment for me, even though I had already been studying Divine Feminine and starting my journey, that was the moment where I was like, if they don't want women like her, they don't want women like me, and I don't need to be here anymore. And that's where that poem that came from, Burning with Words, because the he said, she said, but she's the one that had, I you know, it's like, if you knew, you knew, but if you want to live in your echo chamber and follow the program, then you can, or you can step out and see the truth. So that is the tea, because if you don't know when you read it, so now when you read it, it might hit a little different.
Beautiful. Okay, well, Amanda does lead the chapters in Burned. So if you are keen to hear her poem and read her words, you won't have to go far. Grab your copy of Burned and you can flip straight to the first chapter. And now that you've got the tea, you'll be able to understand it all in context. Okay.
And wait, before you go on, Amanda, again, I just want to say, like, everything in the book, this book, was just divine timing. And the fact that you weren't going to write in the book, and then you sent this poem through, and we were just like, oh, yes, she is. There's no way that we can't have her words in this book. And then when it was finished and it was ready to be, you know, uploaded, and Tracy and I are deciding, you know, how the format is going to go, who's going to be where, how are we organizing the chapters. Tracy was just like, this is what, when somebody opens the book, this needs to be the very first thing. And if you all haven't read this poem yet, you'll understand when you do. The book needed that poem. And so thank you for accepting our plead to be in this book, because it needed it. And it's freaking amazing. Absolutely. If no one has told you before, please let me tell you that your ability and your skill to write poems is phenomenal. And that's a phenomenal poem, Amanda. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now whoever is next.
Please, can I go next?
Yes,
Marilyn, of course you may.
There's a reason why I'd like to go next, and that is, Amanda, when you were reading and I was looking at you on the screen, there was a white halo right the way around you, like a bubble of protection. And also, I resonate with some of what you're saying to do with the church. I do understand that side. So my chapter is called Coded for Silence, Destined to Speak. And it starts when I was very young. And I'm going to read part of the first page. I've got mine printed out. And then I'd like to show an oracle card that I pulled just before I came on. They say a child absorbs everything it hears, sees, or experiences without question up to the age of 7, accepting it as normal. My normal was to be unwanted by some who saw my very existence as a threat that needed to be extinguished, yet I survived. My normal was to absorb my mother's embarrassment, shame, and stress arising from her fear of being found out by her parents and employer. My normal was the need to stay hidden, for to hide was to be safe, allowing my mother to avoid others' condescending looks and faces filled with judgment for as long as possible. My normal was to be considered an object of pity, rejected, and thought of as a product of sin, a devil's child, some said. My normal was to be surrounded by a ring of compressed trauma, imperceptible to the naked eye of my longed-for playmates, who were repelled by its negative energy field, which I unknowingly projected throughout my childhood and into the later years of adulthood. These inbuilt values and beliefs were encoded into the fabric of my being from conception, determining, I believe, the way I thought about myself and behaved from my earliest of days. I continue and finish that section called My Conditioning Was Complete. I was coded for silence. And just before we came on tonight, I decided to pull an oracle card, and it's from a lovely deck, Rebecca Campbell's Work for Light, and it's actually transformation. And I won't read the whole meaning that goes with it, but it talked about this last year having transformed so much, and that inner transformation's carrying on. So really powerful.
I love that you drew your card from your Work Your Light Oracle, Carolyn.
Thank you, Tracy. That was a gift from you, I believe.
It was a birthday present, I believe.
Yeah, I use them a lot.
Absolutely beautiful. Now, we've had some comments come through. Unfortunately, it's not showing us all of who the comments are from, but and it didn't show properly, but I just wanted to read this out. One of the review team, actually, and I do know who this person is. This is our beautiful Barbara Campbell, even though the comments don't show exactly who it is. Said her review starts, it's just gone up onto Amazon. Did you ever open to the first page of a book, read the first sentence, and shudder wondering if someone had reached into your mind and pulled your thoughts out and put them on paper? That is how the words in the poem by Amanda Knorr made me squirm and then lifted me up to fight another day. So, very timely.
Thank you.
And thank you, Barbara, for your beautiful words. For
Yes.
each of the authors, you will have to go and check Barbara's review on Amazon. She has written a lovely comment about each and every single one of your chapters. So if you want to feel very seen, Barbara has left a little gift for each and every one of you.
Yeah. Tracy, I just want to interject real quick. I think that I said this before in a different launch, on a different launch party. But sometimes when we all decide that we want to participate in something, it's initiated by some sort of, forgive the word, but a selfish reason. Like, we have a story to tell. We want to become a best-selling author. It was our dream to always write a book, right? It's something initiated that is so selfish, right? But what it turns into is something like what Amanda's poem has done for Barbara, and what each of our stories have done and will continue to do for as long as we continue to promote this, which is why my plea earlier to never stop promoting it is so important, is that although we all joined possibly for some sort of selfish, again, forgive the term, selfish reason, it is impacting people in ways that we can never imagine. And there is a ripple effect that we will never see. And I just want to say that always follow that little nudge that you feel inside that says, I should participate or I should do this, because you are being asked to by a power higher than we are aware of. So please follow that whenever you feel it. So thank you, Amanda, because these are this poem obviously is already connecting with people. And as the more reviews come in, and even if we can't see those reviews, we'll never know. But just have, you know, an understanding that our stories, each one of these stories, each one of you on the call, everyone that is in the book that is not on the call, these stories are healing. These stories are inspirational. And there was a reason that they needed to be told. So I just wanted to say, sometimes it may feel as though that it's selfish. Sometimes it costs money, right? Each one of you paid to participate, to have these words printed. But my goodness, the impact that it's going to make for the rest of our lives and beyond. So, all right. I'll get off my soapbox. Back to you, Tracy.
So does anyone want to go next, or I don't mind? Kelly? Great.
I can go next. I have a school bus drop off coming soon. So I'm sharing a story from my adolescence. And so this was around the time of 12 to 13 years old, just for a little context. So sometime around the 7th grade in the Catholic Church, we went through a sacramental initiation. This was called the First Confirmation or Reconciliation, in which we went to church, stepped into a confessional booth, and confessed our quote-unquote sins to a Catholic priest. After going through that particular sacrament in the 7th grade, I continued to do this mindlessly without even really thinking about its purpose or intent. I guess I was much like any 12-year-old who is told to do something by their parents just because that's how it's always been done. But something definitely awoke in me during the summer before the 8th grade, because when it came time to go back to the confessional that year, I said no. My mind takes me right back to the day I spoke up. I was standing in the church as my teacher, who had been in her career at this school for 30 plus years, approached to tell me it was my turn to go to the confessional to quote unquote confess my sins. But I had decided that when I walked into church that day, I would never confess my sins to anyone ever again, especially not a priest sitting in a confessional booth. My 13-year-old self had her mind made up. My convictions were strong and no one was talking me out of them. Still remember the look on my teacher's face when I told her my revelation. What a mix of confusion and anger. This was a teacher who had probably done the same procedure with her for the past 30 years. So a 13-year-old kid telling her no wasn't something she dealt with often, maybe never. My no shook something deep within her. I could see it in her body language. Her arms crossed, brows furrowed, and her disapproving stare burned through me. But I was unwavering in my convictions. That random school morning in 1999 was a big energetic turning point for my spiritual life as I knew it. I like to cite it as a day I regained my divine feminine power. At the very least, it was beginning to awaken within me. That little flicker of divinity, long lost by centuries of pushing toxic masculinity as the all-powerful God and divine source, was beginning to resurface, and it felt damn good. I stood up inside a church and went against their teachings. My soul spoke for me, telling me it had enough of being blindly obedient inside a world that wasn't meant for me. Had I done that in the burning times, I would have been severely condemned, burned to death, drowned, stabbed, or experienced another horrific, torturous way of stopping me from claiming my inner divine feminine power and practicing my innate intuitive spiritual gifts. It makes me reflect on why no one ever told me it was okay to step outside the box and to form my own beliefs around spirituality and divinity. Why it was the only path shown to me, a path that was marked by patriarchal values. Women couldn't even become priests within my religion. I believe it was a direct result of the burning times. Somewhere down the line, my ancestors were condemned for their beliefs. Even if they weren't publicly condemned, they hid their spiritual gifts away in fear of being condemned, and they carried that condemnation and fear within their DNA. Until one day, my parents brought me into the world, and part of my soul plan was to heal that generational trauma, specifically the witch wound of the past generations. It's written in my DNA to be the shining light for the previous generations who were so brutally forced to be in the darkness out of fear that they would become too powerful. Patriarchal powers shut down any form of alternative spirituality, especially the type that reignites the divine feminine, so they could carry on the world with their own toxic masculine agenda and maintain power and control over the masses. If you recall the story of creation, Eve was the one who bit the forbidden fruit. She brought the sin to humanity. Ever since that belief system was established, women's voices around the world have been suppressed and our divinity cast aside. Our spiritual gifts, healing abilities, and divine feminine power were stifled. But that all changes now. My story is one of many. Around the world, there are many, many people awakening to the divine feminine healing path, reclaiming their power and awakening the witch within.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So, Kelly, I love everything about your chapter. And it's funny because I was listening to something else the other day where it was talking about that exact same thing about how Eve was the original sin, but she was punished because she dared to ask for knowledge. She dared to want to know things for herself rather than just trusting in blind faith what she was told by someone else. And that is the story that keeps repeating for women over and over and over, that when we seek knowledge and power, we are penalized and punished for that. And exactly what you just said, it stops here. It stops now. We're not here for it anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this whole process has, again, my whole journey has really been, it was initiated when I had my daughter, because looking at how I want her to be in the world, and I don't want these things to happen to her, and I want her to be in her power and be sovereign, and I want a different experience for her, right? So just looking at this whole thinking about this whole process that I've been through in writing this book and everything that I've healed so far, it is just such a powerful realization to think about who this is impacting and how many of our kids, how many of the future generations this is going to impact as we amplify these, right?
Absolutely. And exactly what you said, having my daughter, who will be turning 16 soon, also changed a lot for me as well, like made me look back on my past experiences and the things I had been through that I didn't want her to ever have to experience as well. And I know that for many women, and whether you have children of your own or not, whether you have nieces, whether you have goddaughters, whether you have friends, kids, or things like that, you're in a position where you teach other younger generations or whatever, that there is this pull for so many of us that we just need to shift the paradigm now. And that is very much what this book was about, what the intention for this and for Broken as well was, breaking those ancestral chains and those generational cycles. But yeah, this speaking our truth and speaking up. And what everyone else watching can't see is that in the author chat here, there's so much support for everything that you just said, Kelly, about your story and about the relationship with God or the divine, and the need to confess our sins, and the way that it has been used as a weapon against women for a really long time. Okay, who would love to go next? Who's got something that they
I'll go next if it's okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Wow, Kelly, your story, wow. Really really amazing and really powerful, and I feel that it's connected to my story, because the person who tried to silence me and keep me quiet is a very religious person, and this goes back lifetimes. This is a repeating pattern of lifetimes. So wow, that really hit close to home, even though I didn't grow up religious. I'm very spiritual, and my parents never forced anything on me. But then this particular person was really trying to keep me quiet, and very religious as well. And again, it goes back several lifetimes. So it's it's a powerful, it's a strange, powerful dynamic. So my chapter is called Breaking the Chains, Unleashing My Voice to Reclaim My Power. And then the part that I'm going to read is the subtitle is A Love That Pushes You to Your Limits and Beyond. When you have a big mission, sometimes people will come into your life who will challenge you to your core to see how serious you are about this mission. In my life, a person like that taught me big lessons about staying true to myself and speaking my truth. When we first met, things were good and harmonious between us, and we focused on the things that we had in common. After a few months, things started to change, and he started saying negative things to me. At first, it was subtle, and then it became blatant. The change was gradual and significant at the same time, and I began to notice that it coincided with me getting more visibility and acknowledgement. When you are a strong woman with a big mission, you want a strong man by your side who will support you and take you higher. If a man is scared or intimidated by your success, then he is not the right partner for you. A journey from silence to empowerment and freedom. Recently during an Akashic Records reading and healing, I discovered that I had made a vow of poverty and silence in a past life. In that life, I was a young boy training to be a monk, and I had to take a vow of silence and poverty. A vow of silence works when you're training to be a monk, but not when you're an international transformational life and relationship coach with a big mission to help people. Even though I took this vow 2 lifetimes ago, it was still affecting me. Vows can impact us across time and space and across many lifetimes. When I heard about this vow, I was ready to break it. So I did. It felt very powerful and cathartic to break this vow and to make space for a new stage of my life full of expression and abundance in all ways. I feel like I am doing all the talking in this life that I did not do in that life. In the past year, I have become a best-selling author, received 6 awards, and appeared on 4 magazine covers. So I am very visible now, which confirms that the vow has definitely been broken. So that's my excerpt.
It has definitely been broken.
Yeah.
I like that, Laura. Oh my goodness. Yes, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, so Caitlin has had to leave early, but she sent through an excerpt that she would like written out or read out. So I'm going to just quickly do that one and then we can carry on. So Caitlin's story is set in her first year of middle school at the age of 11. And to set the scene, she's sitting at the lunch table at school when another girl comes up and cuts her off speaking and tells her, "You're annoying. You talk too much. No one cares what you have to say." This came out of nowhere. She and I had never had issues before. In fact, she was new to the school and I knew what it felt like for me to be the new girl that year. So I had been kind to her and wanted to make sure that she had a friend. My mind received her words like this: "Nothing you have ever said, nothing that you will ever say will matter to anyone. So shut up and stay quiet because you are too annoying to inflict your talking on anyone." My soul fractured that day. I was devastated. I blamed myself for it happening. I must actually be that annoying or it wouldn't have happened. And maybe I was the cause of everything that had happened to me that year. I tried to keep going as best I could. And just when I thought I had made the necessary adjustments to fit in, it happened again. Same girl, same words, with an added, "I told you you weren't welcome here. Why are you back? Didn't you understand the first time? No one wants you here." Clearly, I hadn't suppressed my annoyingness enough. I would have to try harder if I didn't want to keep being a target. Her words became my inner voice. And that is absolutely devastating. I feel that so much, both as a mother, but also as I moved around a lot when I was growing up and I was the new girl a lot. And Caitlin, sending you so much love. Thank you for sharing your beautiful wisdom with us. And for those of you who would like to read more of Caitlin's story and get to the good stuff where she finds her courage to speak her truth and shed that particular voice, a lot of magic in her story. So thank you, Caitlin. Now, who would like to go next? Got Lindsay, Terry.
Terry.
So happy to be here.
Yes.
So this story, I decided to, because as Tracy and Jenny know, my healing began with Jenny. And, 2 are better than 1. And so my ultimate journey of healing from the inside out began even more so with the Wounded Women series. So I'm so glad. I'm one of those that once that poked me on the inside, I just dove headfirst into it. Anyway, so I did the 3 books. This one I chose, and honestly, every chapter or every book, as Jenny knows, I'm blank. And so it just begins however it begins. excuse me, I've got a little Gracie girl here that has just been kind of a little pickle. But this went in a direction I never would have known it would have went. So this is tying all of that, all of my story from the beginning into this one to let it all go. So I don't keep going back and dragging it forward. Because then I'm wondering, well, how am I healing if I think each book I write in and my story, I'm always going back and then forward. So this is where that came from. My story is called The Beautiful Bridge. And I'm going to read from the subtitle, the portion of the chapter on that I labeled To Burn or Not to Burn the Bridge. And so burning bridges is often used to describe the act of intentionally cutting off relationships with people or opportunities. It means to destroy one's path, reputation, connections, and opportunities. The phrase is particularly used when someone intentionally cuts off these relationships. And I have to ask myself, is it really all that bad if I burn my bridge? We have to guard ourselves against who are not for us. If people aren't for you, they are against you. People cannot love and hate you at the same time. That is not how this realm works. It is one or the other. Again, I need to really ask myself to burn or not to burn the bridge. So let's explore further. Burn bridges, the meaning. The idiomatic phrase burn bridges means the inability to revert to an early state or position. In other words, burning your bridges implies being forced to continue with a specific course of action with no point of return or the provision to reinstate the original. Why would I want to? This is where I was going to begin the book. The listeners and the readers need to go back to our books and read our stories forward. Because why would I want toxic people to have a point of return or give them an opportunity to reinstate their life back into mine? They burned their own bridge. I, in all my faith in Heavenly Spirit, continue to keep the door to my bridge open. Really? Why would I want more abuse? I was continuing to walk in God's purpose for my life. Walk in peace, to love and serve God's people. I made a direct vow. I do not have to act the way other people act. I do not have to treat people the way they treat me. Besides relationships, other things that can have their bridges burnt include path, reputation, connections, and opportunities. Generally, the bridges that are burnt or the connections, relationships, and so on that get wrecked are done intentionally, and the actions are usually rooted in ignorance. Simply, I have allowed the haters, the potsters, the bullies, and their entourage to crash and burn all on their own. There is no need for me to follow their path of self-destruction. They have a problem with me. I never had a problem with them. You see, you don't need to get vengeance. I'm not a person who believes in karma. I walk in faith. I trust God. I continue to be who He created me to be. We don't always have to be on attack. Let people go about their own life, leaving a burning path of hatred and discontent along the way. You do not have to. Here's what I have learned and why I take the road less traveled. It is far easier to live amongst the world and worldviews than it is to chart your own course and stay faithfully on your own magnificent path. Live by your own personal life standards. Most people don't want to see others succeed. Most people don't want to see others happy and living life to the fullest. As the saying goes, misery loves company. Well, it's no wonder I have always felt very alone in the world. I refuse to hang out with misery. The smaller my circle, the more peace and serenity I have. Now, I repeat, do not begin rebuilding the bridges that others have burnt if they don't serve you well, if they are not for you, if they do not genuinely love you, let the ashes lay. Our nature is to want to always reach out. We want everyone to like us, to be happy for us. We want toxic people to include us in their life. I totally understand your pushback on this. Please trust me. You do not need to be the one who rebuilds bridges that do not serve you and your future self well. Pain may come in the night, but joy will always come in the morning. Take it from me, a strong, badass woman who continued to cross the bridges that led me back into the hands of the haters, the pot stickers, and the bullies. Do I think I wasted years of my life? You know it. That was another obstacle I have had to get over. Not hating myself for allowing the actions of others to ruin so many days, weeks, months, and years of my life. You see, I didn't know that I was building my own beautiful bridge. I never realized that my original beautiful bridge was taking me back to the path of toxic, evil destruction. Life is a mystery. We may think people have burned their bridges where we are concerned. However, the truth be told, they will continue to allow us to cross back on because misery loves company. And when we stop crossing their toxic bridge to head back their way, they think we burned the bridge. Our absolute truth is we are not responsible for another person's bridge. We are only responsible for our own mental and emotional health and wellness, our own beautiful bridge. When we choose to continue to live life forward, they despise us for our strength, our courage, our confidence, therefore blaming us for burning bridges. Continue to live your life forward and let the haters hate. You have absolutely nothing to lose and nothing to prove. Aren't I better, Tracy and Jenny, with, you know?
I love
I've
this.
grown.
So
I
good.
just feel like a brand new creature.
Yeah, Terry, just the continued growth, you know, in your writing and your perspective. It's right there. It's printed, you know, your journey. And I wanted to tell you that my mom, the very first thing that my mom looks for when our books come out is Terry's chapter. And she reads your chapter before my own. And that's the truth. She said that she just wants to reach out to you through the pages and give you a big hug. And she genuinely reads your chapter first when she knows that you're in the book.
I'm up for adoption.
I'm sure she would love another daughter, truthfully. But yeah,
Thank you.
Perspective in this chapter is just so beautiful, because I know that you've been struggling with going back and it keeps tormenting you, and it keeps, so this is just, I loved it. Loved how you know, that last line that you wrote too is just so powerful. I love it, Terry. Fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, because as you know, I mean, this chapter truly helped me let go of the 30, 40 plus years of that anguish and torment that just kept getting bigger and heavier and stronger and louder. Up until you and I met, I was a complete broken mess.
Yeah.
And it helped me set that all free and just burn that bridge to the anguish and the torment that has destroyed, just destroying me from the inside out all of my life.
Beautiful.
So I love all you gals. You're good for me, and I need sisters. So I appreciate all of you.
Well, lucky for you, we can never have too many sisters.
See, I collect sisters, so.
Oh, I like that. Add me to your collection.
Lindsay, Jenny, I'm gonna jump in now and I'm gonna read my section, okay? And then you two can fight it out for the pole position.
I'll just tell Lindsay now. Go ahead after Tracy.
You just want the last word, don't you, Jen?
Yeah, I like to have the last word.
So
I'm okay with that.
So my section is from the very last part of my chapter, which seems to be a bit of a theme for everybody's excerpts, actually. And mine is from a section called Realigning with the Whole Self. I have spent most of my life second-guessing every decision I ever made and lacking the confidence to stand in my convictions because I was constantly trying to weigh up what the best options were to make everyone happy, even if it meant that I had to sacrifice what I wanted for the collective good. The more aligned I became, though, and the more I gave myself permission to be selfish and choose what was right for me and my business without apology, the more confident I became in myself and the more certain I became about my mission, purpose, and vision for the future. It would be a lie to suggest that I don't still have my moments where the witch wound rears its ugly head and I feel an overwhelming desire to light a match, walk away, and burn everything to the ground when things get too real, too hard, or too scary. But I've learned to acknowledge where those feelings are coming from and let them wash over me. To feel the feelings and then release them out into the universe with love, instead focusing on what I want to be calling and anchoring in. Part of realigning my whole self involved reintegrating all the facets of myself that I'd previously kept separate, to accept my strengths as well as my weaknesses and challenges, and to practice radical self-love and self-acceptance. I had to believe that I was already enough, exactly as I was, not waiting until I was something else. To stop seeking external validation while denying myself the internal validation that had the power to create a truly epic self-transformation. The other part of realigning with my whole self was accepting what wasn't working, dismantling the unsustainable, and having the courage to let go. In the end, I realized that I couldn't stay in a relationship where the love was conditional and where I was only worthy if I could manage to live up to the expectations set for me rather than by me. It was no longer an option to twist myself out of shape in order to fit someone else's template of who I should be, because the bittersweet truth is that I can only be me. Me in all my gloriously messy, imperfect facets, shining my light unapologetically, speaking my truth and standing tall, no matter what anyone else thinks.
Wow, that's beautiful.
I, for one, love your beautiful mess. So I'm just going to say that. And all of your imperfections. I love you just the way you are. Lindsay.
Okay, Lindsay.
So I need you guys' help a little bit here.
Oh, it's interactive?
Well, there's some surprises, and I didn't pick which part I was going to read. I've been trying to decide. For the watchers at home, or anybody here that hasn't read my chapters, there's some surprises. It kind of opens with a bang. And there may or may not be a surprising plot twist. So I'm hesitant to give too much away, but that said, today feels like a big day where I've been looking forward to exposing this truth. So my chapter is about conversation that I had where I shared a secret that I had been hiding for almost 20 years. A very important person in my life affected the trajectory of who I would become. And I kept it all very, very tight and close to the chest for a variety of reasons, which I touch on briefly in my short chapter. And over the last few years, the impulse to get out from underneath this secret that's been weighing me down has been building and growing. And ironically enough, the culture has been supporting that, the world events. So I've been kind of just debating, like, do I go there? Do I just like read the message at the end? If you guys have any thoughts. Otherwise, I thought maybe I would just read the part at the end where I'm kind of delivering the why we need to share.
I'm just riveted.
All right, well, I'll read the end part, and reader, you can decide. This section of my chapter is called Own Your Weird. And I would love to encourage everybody here in the book, related to the book, discovering this hidden part of you that you kept away for fear of judgment. Please use the hashtag #OwnYourWeird. I'm starting a movement. The fear of speaking our truth can seem exaggerated from a logical perspective, but it's actually rooted in our survival mechanism. Biologically, belonging equals not just love and community, but safety and security on a primal level. You may think your story is too weird, too risky, or even too mundane to tell. Let me tell you, the world needs your story now. We are all agents of change in a pivotal moment on this planet, whether we know it or not. It's easy to see that crazy things are happening here on Earth. If you are paying attention, it is time to help those that aren't to wake up. Whether your story involves the surprise or more down-to-earth topics in the human experience, so others will speak, so others will start to question the narratives out there. As the world continues to shift and evolve, it is more important than ever that we speak our truths. When we share our perspectives and experiences, we open hearts and minds to new ways of being and open eyes to hidden truths. We must bring light to that which needs to be exposed in order to heal the corruption in our systems and the things that don't make sense in our world. This doesn't require a shouting match or protest signs. We can start with heart-led conversations one-to-one. No one is changing anyone else's opinion by hurling insults in the comments section. No one can deny what you have lived unless you do. If we are brave enough to tell our stories, our wildest, most heartfelt personal stories, we will change the world. So own your weirdness. Speak your truth. Ask questions. It's time to start the conversation. You never know who you might connect with along the way. They could be out of this world or maybe even closer to home than you ever expected. And I will just add that the very first line of my story, if you're not convinced you need to read it yet, is I have seen aliens, I said as nonchalantly as possible. So I hope that you will read my story. I hope that you will reach out to me, let me know what you think. go find out who I met, go see what I've experienced, and let me know if you've ever had to have a conversation or kept something so close to your heart. I've been so excited to share my story for my own, like Jenny said, selfish reasons. And, you know, I'm lightweight expecting pushback. The haters are going to hate, but that's okay, because I'm here for the people that need to know that there's more to what we are being told, and that know that there's more to what we've been told on this world. So hashtag own your weird.
Lindsay, love it.
Yay.
Love it.
Beautiful.
I mean, just when once I read my chapter, it's going to connect back to Lindsay anyways. But what you were saying, Lindsay, the fact that there is more to everything, and just because we talk about it and start that conversation, other people can think we're weird. That's fine, but you're going to find your people that don't think that you're weird, because we are starting the conversation and we can talk about it amongst each other and hold space for each other like we are.
Yes.
So,
and the bottom line is, it's not the things that are happening in our world right now are not as uncommon as we have been led to believe. And that's the big secret that the powers that be that are trying to keep. And I want to acknowledge that this book, by the nature of its topic, burns, and also by intention, does have kind of a feminist bent, women's empowerment, which I'm totally all about. My chapter, I just take a slightly different angle to it, and I you could say I'm looking at things from a more cosmic level. So
and for that,
yeah.
it comes back around though, Lindsay. Like, and because of your perspective, right? Like,
exactly.
We're afraid.
Exactly.
We're
Yes.
afraid.
It is all so tied together. The
Yeah.
religion, the gender, the energy. It's this day has me lit up, ladies.
Yay!
I'm just like, I'm so over the moon that we're doing this. Thank you all. Thank you. And I'm so excited to hear your chapter, Jenny.
Well, Ruth has put her hat in the ring, so let's go, Ruth.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to preface this by, as you will all be aware, my chapter is not yet in the book. And the reason, there's multiple reasons, but the main reason for that is that when I start writing, it doesn't matter what it is, but when I'm writing things that mean a lot to me, what tends to happen is the universe goes, here, deal with this, have this experience. Are you sure this is what you want to write about? Have this. So as I was writing Burned, and it also happened in Broken, things changed. I learned there was growth, there were some pretty significant challenges. So my chapter has changed. It will be in the book very soon, and will definitely be in the print copy, obviously. And I wasn't going to read part of it today because it hasn't been through editing. It hasn't, anyway, nervous. But I'm going to read the opening because at the moment it's my favorite bit of the entire chapter. And I can't wait to share the rest of it with you very shortly. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to read it now. So my chapter is titled Our Words Carry a Powerful Magic. And basically in it, I am exploring something that is incredibly passionate to me in my day-to-day life, but also in my work, and particularly my work with other people, which is how silenced we are as people in the world that we live in, and how we can learn to break through that silence and not only find our voice, but have the courage to speak our words. And exactly like you were just saying, Lindsay, in that, haters aren't going to hate. And there's actually a Taylor Swift quote somewhere in there as well. So that works perfectly. Anyway, okay. So our words carry a powerful magic. What music do you like? What would you like me to play? An innocent question, a gentle curiosity, a beautiful offer. But it made me feel sick, panicked, sweaty. Anxiety rose in my body as my mind frantically searched for an answer, an appropriate answer, a safe answer. Then my mouth took over and I replied, I don't know. Tears flowed. Hiccuping and snotty, I stood there staring at him, not knowing whether to curl into a ball or run out of the room. I felt so stupid, exposed, and oh so raw. From across his kitchen counter, my partner looked at me, his expression clearly showing shock and concern. Although we'd only been dating for a few weeks, we'd known each other for a long time, and he was not expecting a casual question to have this effect. Thankfully, he took me in his arms and held me while I sobbed. Then he scrapped our plans for dinner, poured us each a glass of wine, and encouraged me to sit with him and explain where this torrent of tears and emotions had come from. But even that was frightening. How can I explain my feelings? How do I expose my deepest fear? How could I tell him that I couldn't answer the question about my musical tastes because I had no idea what music I like? And in that moment of being unable to reply to this one simple question, I recognize that I have no idea who I am. That's it.
I love you, Ruth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh. That was really hard. No one said it before, and now you all have, and whoever happens to be listening. So, yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Ruth. I know that you were struggling with the idea of reading anything today because it hadn't made it into the ebook copy yet. But you know what? It just gives everybody a reason to reread it later on because it's the gift that is going to keep on giving, right?
So I have a question then. Will you update like the e-copy too? So then people, like when they update their Kindle, then they'll have the full.
Yeah, so normally as part of the process anyway, invariably someone will find like spelling errors or like where something has gone wrong in formatting or something. So we always make some minor adjustments and then re-upload a newer version of the manuscript for the ebook copy, because it's also one of the reasons that we do the ebook before the paperback, because we iron out all of the issues before it goes to print, because you can't really, unless you reprint and redo the whole process, you can't just change what's in a print book the way that you can in an ebook. So we already have uploaded one set of revisions, which included my chapter, which you guys will have heard today, but I know was probably not in the version that Kelly read last night. So that one, depending on your Kindle app or whatever, if you've got automatic updates enabled on your thing, it will automatically download the updates and do that. But it can take, like after we upload a revision on the ebook, it can take, I think Amazon says it can take 72 hours. So the version that I've got on my Kindle still doesn't contain my chapter yet. So you'll will just have to wait for that. That's a surprise for you guys for over the weekend. Okay. But yeah, so Ruth will be in there, and two of our other Aussie authors have had some health issues. Teresa's been in hospital recently, having another surgery on her leg, and Helen has had her own things that she's been working through as well. So their chapters didn't quite make it through for today's launch, but we are still working with them to get those chapters in ready for the paperback. So,
maybe there's something
shout
going
out
on in Australia.
What was that?
I said maybe there's something going on in Australia.
Who knows?
Awesome,
Maybe it's this shift from Pluto from Capricorn into Aquarius. Maybe that's like affecting Australia a little bit more than it is everybody else. Who knows?
Maybe.
But yeah, so shout out to Helen and Teresa. We see you guys and we love you guys. And we know that when your stories do come through, that they will be extremely. Teresa and Helen have both written Trade, and then Helen also wrote in Broken as well. And they're both extremely powerful writers with beautiful stories to share. So I know once those come, there'll be a little bit more magic in our books too. That leaves last but not least my partner in crime and the woman who makes absolutely everything possible. But before Jenny starts, we've just had a comment come through from somebody who is following along at home, a Carolyn Weeks, who says that as an empath that didn't know how to have boundaries, she felt exactly what Ruth expressed. She was so programmed to like whatever someone else liked, to keep the peace, the happy vibe, not rock the boat, etc. So, yeah, Ruth, we see you. Thank you, Carolyn, for sharing that with us as well. Then on that note, it's time for Jenny to share her chapter and her magic, her experience.
It's one thing to actually write it, right? Like you go through this process of needing to write it, and then you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to publish this, and then other people that I don't know are going to read this, and right. And then like to actually read it, I had no problem reading Jennifer's. Oh, that was fine. I was able to read Jennifer's, no problem. But now I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, like I need to take some deep breaths. Yeah, because kind of like what Lindsay said, like actually, it's one thing to keep this to yourself, right? And Ruth, like you just said, it's one thing to keep this to yourself, like, and it's your kind of your secret. It hasn't been shared with anyone. But this is so new to me, you guys. Like, I'm literally like, this is happening. I feel like I'm literally just blurting it out. Like this just happened. I'm just blurting it out. And like, I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing or what. I don't really know.
You got this, Jenny.
I think you need to take a leaf out of Carolyn's book. Just don't overthink it.
Just do it.
Well, yeah. I definitely didn't overthink it when I started writing it, but I have been overthinking it this entire call. Like, okay, can I get out of this?
No,
but I won't. But I won't. So, all right. So here we go. Yep. I see this. Okay. So, all right. If you can imagine gradually submerging yourself into the most perfect water, its temperature so balanced it feels like an extension of yourself, then you'll understand the calm, gentle, and serene sensation in my body. I remember feeling, but I do not remember thinking, as I opened my notebook and began to write. The guides keep guiding you, the message began. I remember the aching of my hand from the volume of words flowing through me and pouring onto the paper. And I remember continuing to feel in my heart. I continue to feel my heart race in my chest, but without the panic I'd been experiencing up until this point. When my pen finally came to a stop, a message about my life's mission stretched across 2 pages in my notebook. This message had a clear and powerful purpose: to guide me toward acknowledging and wholeheartedly embracing my spiritual gifts. It was also an urgent call to action for me to share this story with and for other women who might be on a similar journey. Women who are seeking the courage to accept and embrace their own magic, truth, and spiritual abilities. The message was signed XOXOXOJ, a loving reminder of the divine guidance that had just channeled through me. This incredible experience didn't stop there, however, as my guides were not finished communicating through me. I remained in a state of pure feeling without conscious thought, with an overwhelming sense of comfort and protection that wrapped around me as I began talking to Tracy. She quickly realized that I wasn't me speaking. and that my guides were now channeling their message through me directly to her. They told her that my heart rate remained high, but they were actively working to calm me down. Then they proceeded to tell her to write down the following for me. Jenny, you've been afraid to ever mention that you have the ability to channel. You see all of these people on Facebook speaking about being a channel, but you actually are. Transmission complete. I finally lay down and felt my heart rate slowly come down as I drifted off to sleep. So I had a phenomenal experience that I was in no way expecting. And that is a little sliver of what happened that day. And I was very blessed the next day I'm very blessed to live down the street from Lindsay, essentially, and was able to go to Friendsgiving, which I talked about. And I shared this experience with Lindsay. And I just feel like everything is just so, there's no coincidences. And there's no coincidence that this happened the day before going to Lindsay's. There's no coincidence in any aspect of any of this. And I literally felt extremely crazy, and I was still physically feeling ill. I was physically unwell at Lindsay's party. I had problems with my heart rate and breathing, and I felt anxious. And I was able to talk to Lindsay and share this with her, that I had this experience, and I've never experienced anything quite like this before. And I did. I felt crazy, and Tracy had been here with me, and she was like, no, it actually happened. You're not going crazy. And then Lindsay was able to validate the fact that I actually had an experience. I'm not insane. I'm not having a psychological breakdown. And it was just very, very special to be able to have someone that understood. So thank you, Lindsay. If I haven't said that before, I can't really explain how important of a period of time that was for me and my spiritual and personal growth. And you were there to be able to kind of comfort me and reassure me through that. So anyway, for anybody who might read my chapter and have had experiences but have brushed them off or not paid attention or thought that you were crazy or anything to that effect,
You're not.
You're not.
You're not crazy. It's really happening. Yeah. Come to me, my weirdos. I love you all.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
so
Lindsay,
proud
I
of you,
love you.
Jen.
I love how you got your face right up in there. The arms out.
Jenny.
Yeah. Aren't you weird?
So proud of you.
Everybody.
But then it just also opened up this entire conversation, for stealing Lindsay's title, starting this conversation on the fact of, well, if this was real, which it was, and I have pushed it down, and at what point did I do that? At what point in this life did I push aside my connection? At what point in past lives, maybe, did I push aside and feel as though it wasn't safe to be who I was, to accept my gifts, to speak my truth? At what point? And to echo Kelly, like, that's not happening anymore. So, ladies, I love each one of you. I love whoever's not here too. I love them as well. I wish they were here, but thank you all for sharing. Thank you all for being vulnerable, putting yourself out there. I love you all.
And on that note, we are just going to celebrate some of the incredible achievements that have come out of each and every one of you sharing your story and showing up and being here. So for those of you watching, if you have already got your copy of Burned, you know, we would love to hear your thoughts. We would love for you to leave us a review on Amazon and let us know how what we've shared here today on the launch party, how what you have read in the book has resonated or touched you. And for those of you who have not yet got the book, yes, who are really vibing with everything everybody is saying, the link is right there. You can go to Amazon mybook.to/burned WWS. The capitalization is really important. You can go and grab your copy for 99 cents or 99 pence, or it depends what part of the world you're in. Basically, it's less than $1. And support our authors, share with them your thoughts and your reactions to their beautiful words, but also, you know, take some of their words of wisdom for yourself and, you know, integrate their journeys into your own and allow it to unlock something within you. So in celebration of that, we have achieved some incredible results. Number 1 new release in Women Authors Literary Criticism. We have also been number 1 in Women Writers Social Sciences ebooks, bestsellers in Witchcraft, Religion and Spirituality. We've hit release in France.
Yeah.
We sellers in inspirational ebooks. We have achieved some absolutely phenomenal results. Again, Wicca and Witchcraft, history and criticism of literature by women, hot new releases. More religion, witchcraft and spirituality, women writers and women writing, other religion and spirituality practices, you know, and all of these are globally across the world. You know, we've hit number 1 categories in Germany, France, Australia, the US, Canada, and I believe we were getting very close in the UK. Something like, I think we were at about number 7 last time I looked. So this book is a beautiful, important book that, you know, is making waves, and, you know, the reviews that we've seen coming in are just absolutely beautiful. And, you know, it's so inspiring to see the words that each and every one of you who have read the book so far, who have taken the time to, you know, share with us what has resonated for you, to really, you know, lean in to what we have to share. It is just absolutely phenomenal, and we thank you for being a part of our journey and for also, you know, allowing us to be a part of your journeys. So, you know, for those of you who, you know, really need to hear these messages and, you know, experience what it is that everyone has to share, whether it is your experiences with celestial beings, whether it is your spiritual gifts, whether it is your relationship with, you know, society at large and societal expectations of being too much or not enough, whether it is the past life vows that you have broken, or the patterns that you are breaking, whether it is the, stories from this lifetime, the experiences you've had through childhood, the experiences you've had growing up, the ways in which you have needed to find yourself and find your courage and find your truth and find your wisdom. Each and every one of the audience today and those who couldn't make it on the call has a little bit of something for you. And whether it is only one chapter that resonates for you or whether it's a little bit from many, many chapters, we hope that you will find something that gives you the next piece of your puzzle that you need to pull back in all parts of yourself so that you can realign with your whole self, so that you can speak your truth, so that you can start the conversation, so that you can find your voice, so that you can be destined to speak, even if you've been coded for silence. Whatever your situation is, may you find a little piece of yourself here with us. And on that note, does anybody have any other words, anything else that they would like to share with the collective here?
Yeah, I can't remember where I heard it or read it, right? Because we were talking about the witch wound, even though Jenny made sure that the title, word wasn't on the cover. But, and then there's like the t-shirts and whatever that's like, oh, like we're the granddaughters of the witches, they didn't burn and stuff like that. And then one thing that hit me really impactfully though, it was they didn't burn witches, they burned people. Mm-hmm. They ruined people's lives and they murdered people. There weren't witches. It was all about gain and power.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because one of the things that I have been feeling really called to do, and I haven't actually talked to any of you about it yet except for Jenny, is that there have been a number of books that have been particularly instrumental or inspiring, or that really also expand upon elements of the things that each of us have shared in our stories that I think would also be of value to each and every one of us, but also to the readers of Burned. And a little bit, so we did this in Lunar Wisdom actually. Ruth and Amanda might remember that we had a bibliography or recommended reading at the back of Lunar Wisdom, and I have been feeling very strongly that when it comes to the paperback launch for Burned, that there are a number of books that need to be placed into the bibliography for those who perhaps are just starting their journey, unraveling the witch wound, and then would like to perhaps find out more about it because maybe like Jenny back in the beginning of her journey where the witch wound as a term didn't specifically resonate or felt like that wasn't something that they were a party to until they have heard our stories or read our words and then thought, oh, maybe that is me. Maybe that is something I've been experiencing. So that's something that I would really like to put together because I've been listening to a number of books. In fact, there is a book by Celeste Larson literally called Heal the Witch Wound. And she says very much like what you just said, Amanda, that they didn't burn witches. They burned predominantly women. Yeah, really, very much. There were also obviously men as well who were burned for different reasons. And yeah, but it at the end of the day, it was very much about that most of the well, particularly most of the women, one of the things that I learned listening to that was most of the women who were burned were also women of a certain age who perhaps were widowed, who had knowledge and experience in life, and who then decided they didn't wish to remarry and have another man be in charge of them or their property or their business or their whatever. And that independence was punished as witchcraft, because how could you possibly not want to fit in with the societal mores of the day? How could you not want to marry again and have a man manage the finances and, you know, be the provider? How could you possibly dare to have the audacity to be able to survive on your own? And another one that was fabulous was a book called Outspoken, which is all about women's voices in business not being heard, how women are, like, how our voices literally are suppressed, or we have to change the tone and timbre of our voices in meetings in order to be taken seriously and things like that. And there is so much out there when we start to awaken to these things. There is a movement of women out there who are looking to change and put a stop to exactly what Kelly was saying before, you know, like, it's got to stop. It stops here. Like, we need to be educated. We need to know. We need to not be afraid. We need to stand in our power. And, you know, there is a lot of information out there if we are willing to share and pool our resources. And this is another thing that those of you who've been in my world for a little while will know that I am very passionate about. And this was actually a huge part of Lunar Wisdom, was that, and as part of the sister wound as well, that for so long our society has kept us separate, and they've controlled us through lack of sharing of information or the control of the dissemination of information. And by coveting and keeping things secret, there is a level of ignorance. And as women, this, like, for Lunar Wisdom, I really wanted us to be able to share all of the different ways that it was possible to work with the moon, whether you work with astrology, whether you work with it intuitively, however you worked with it. I wanted to showcase that it wasn't about there being one right way to do things, that there are so many ways, or there is your way. And I know one of you touched on this earlier, and I forget who it was, and I apologize, but about there being, you know, there is no one right way to do things. There is only the way that you do things and the way that is right for you. And even within that, though, that the sharing of information, the coming together, the holding hands, to being a community and allowing each person to, you know, bring their wisdom to the table is so important. Anyway, I know Lindsay has something she would like to say before she has to jump off. So, Lindsay, I'm handing the microphone over to you.
Oh, okay. I was going to put it in the chat so you guys could read it when it was right timing, but I'm happy to read it. Today I ran frequencies for the burned book, the launch. I did use a picture of everybody that was on streaming at the beginning of the session. However, these frequencies, I have intended them to be open to anybody that would like to receive them for their own well-being. Just set your intention to receive the healing energy. If that's not your jam, it's totally cool. Don't worry about it. If you want, just think I'm not open to this and it will not affect you. I do use my Healy frequency device. If you have questions, you can ask me about that later. But the intention that I set I kept it brief. If there's something that you would like to add, please put that in your heart. I use the word spirit, God. You can insert universe, source, whatever it is that works for you. So we can just take a moment to offer it up as a prayer, actually, if that works for you. Prayer, intention, same things. It's all about focusing our energy and our desires. So take a deep breath with me. We birthed this book into the world to sow the seeds of love, joy, strength, healing, abundance, freedom, prosperity, and joy, both within ourselves and the collective, for the highest good of all beings on the planet. We ask Spirit to use this book that we may become vessels for the divine will, that God touch all that come into contact with the book directly or indirectly, soften hearts, release fear, empower voices, and embody love and authenticity for the highest good of all. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is. Beautiful.
Thank you all. And I have to
Thank you,
go. Thank you. This is wonderful and such an honor to be a part of this group.
Well, on that note, I just want to share a last message that was shared by one of the girls in our Women Writing Intentionally collective group, who suggested that maybe we hold a Zoom session to see if we can remember how we were once all in the same place in a past life. Because what was coming through for her is that maybe we were all once involved in a very, very early suffragette movement, and that her mind's eye sees an energy cord connecting all of us, which I think is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful vision to see. And I have no doubt, because there are those of you that that we have been connected with for a while, and I very strongly believe in soul family and the people that we meet, that sometimes there are those connections that you just know instantly, that you can't explain why, but you know that you have spent lifetimes with these people before, because you just recognize them and it feels like you've known them forever, and it's just easy. And with each and every one of you, like Jenny said before, I adore each and every one of you. I love that you're here. I love that you said yes. I love that we've gotten to walk this path together. I look forward to continuing walking the path of the wounded women, just because the book is ready and it's released and it's out in the world now. As Jenny mentioned before, we've still got a paperback launch to go. We've still got audiobooks to go. We are going to be walking this path together for a little bit longer, ladies. And, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to reading all the amazing stories. I got such a nice preview here, really, really, really honored to be a part of this amazing group. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And she just wanted to say hi really quick.
Hi, my name is Ellen. I like mangoes. I love mangoes too.
Hi, Ella.
I have a cat named Mango.
She really wants a cat.
He's orange. Let me see if I can find him.
Why'd she go off?
To find the cat.
She's going to let you see Mango.
Someone just said an indigo. Facebook user, an indigo. Oh, they're referring to Emma as an indigo?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so Emma, you'll have to write with Mommy next time.
Oh,
There
Oh.
he is.
There's another cat in the doorway.
I have lots of cats. Yes.
That one's Maple.
That would be at her house.
Yeah.
How do you click?
Okay, lovely
All right.
ladies. Thank you for being here. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. It has been an absolute pleasure to share a little bit about our books. We have loved all of the comments that you guys have made and commented along the way. Thank you for being with us here tonight. And thank you for sharing and celebrating. Thank you for supporting our book. And, please feel free, reach out, contact the authors that you are connected with. So many of our lovely ladies have incredible launch list bonuses. If you have purchased a copy of Burned and you would like to reach out and get in contact with some of our authors to claim the incredible offers that they have as a thank you for purchasing a copy of Burned, by all means, stalk our authors on Facebook, not in real life. Please don't stalk them in real life. Stalk them on Facebook, stalk them on socials, check out their link trees. All of their link trees are actually in the book. So you can go to their link tree and find out what their launch list bonuses were, or find out how to connect with them on their websites and redeem those bonuses as a special thank you for purchasing a copy of Burned. So
Congratulations again, ladies.
Thank you, and to you.
okay. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.